Life is full of the unexpected, hitting you when you least anticipate it. The tale I'm set to unfold is a prime example, leaving even the most skeptical amazed. By the time we reach the conclusion, you'll find yourself taken aback by the turn of events. Olivia moved her shopping cart forward, loading it with groceries. The supermarket wasn't too crowded, allowing her to navigate the aisles with ease. Simultaneously, Olivia checked her list, marking off each item and mentally calculating whether her funds would cover it all. It appeared that the numbers added up, and without hesitation, she made her way to the cashier, confidently assuming it would suffice. Especially since she had chosen just a bit of everything, avoiding any extravagance. Recent financial constraints had compelled her to be frugal thanks to her meager salary. Every penny counted, and Olivia was acutely aware of that. Yet she couldn't deny her children some treats. They were not responsible for their family's limited income, she thought. With brisk determination, she headed toward the cashier, oblivious to the impending surprise that awaited her there. Even her usually alert intuition remained silent, despite its tendency to signal danger. However, on this day there were no forewarnings. Olivia calmly pushed her cart to the checkout counter. To her astonishment, the cashier announced the total cost of her groceries. Turns out she was $5 short, and the cashier expressed her dissatisfaction with a muttered comment. "Ma'am, you're causing delays for others in line. Let's pick up the pace." Indeed, a few people had gathered behind Olivia, their eyes fixated on her, with the exception of one elderly customer. Olivia desperately scoured her wallet for every bit of spare change, hoping against hope to scrape together the necessary amount. The cashier's patience waned, and she tossed an insult Olivia's way. "People without money shouldn't be shopping here." Olivia couldn't believe a cashier would utter such words to her. Stunned by the remarks, she forgot to respond and focused on counting her change. Finally, Olivia realized she couldn't afford the entire purchase and began the agonizing process of deciding which items to sacrifice amidst the chaos. Thoughts raced through her mind, maybe the milk or the cookies, but her children cherished those. No, perhaps she'd have to go without the semolina porridge. In short, Olivia was torn by indecision, struggling to make a quick choice. As the cashier's cutting remarks escalated, the line behind her grew increasingly impatient. Olivia was ready to abandon her cart and flee, just to escape the accusatory glares and malicious whispers. Tears gathered in her eyes, and she struggled to maintain her composure. She had only come to the store for groceries, and now she found herself in this humiliating predicament. This was a new low for Olivia, facing such disgrace in public. What would people think of her? These thoughts swirled in her mind. Then, unexpectedly, the situation took a turn. The calm elderly gentleman in line quietly opened his wallet and handed a $5 note to the cashier. The cashier, clearly annoyed at her thwarted attempt to cause a scene, grudgingly took the money. Yet she couldn't resist a jab. "There's no need to rescue these con artists," she said, pointing disdainfully at Olivia. "They live by leeching off others, always on the lookout to trick someone naive." The accusation felt like a blow to Olivia, making her wish she could disappear. Her face turned a deep red and her fists tightened to the point of pain. If it weren't for her kind heart, Olivia would have given the cashier a piece of her mind. She quickly packed her groceries, thanked the kind man, and made her way to the exit. Just before leaving, she turned around and assured, "I will surely repay you. Please don't doubt that." She was deeply thankful to the man for his timely assistance, which spared her further embarrassment. Growing up in a household where resources were scarce, she had learned to value every single penny. She harbored dreams of providing her children with opportunities she never had. Despite her limited earnings, she never failed to bring home the small delights her children adored. As she made her way home, her thoughts about securing a job with better pay were momentarily interrupted by the realization that she hadn't gotten the contact information of the kind elderly man, making her question how she would ever manage to express her gratitude for his act of kindness. Little did she know, this act of kindness was set to mark the beginning of a journey into the past for both her and the elderly gentleman, one that would significantly shape their futures. Her 3-year-old daughter Mia greeted her at the door, excited that her mum was home. Eagerly, she inquired if her favorite chocolate was among the groceries. Olivia felt a surge of warmth at her daughter's enthusiasm, which lifted her spirits. Smiling, she responded, "Yes, my dear." In the market, the elderly gentleman encountered the cashier again, leading to a fresh exchange. "Perhaps you should moderate your enthusiasm," the elderly gentleman suggested. The cashier snapped back, "Excuse me, and who might you be?" Unbeknownst to her, she was speaking to the owner of the supermarket chain. "It seems you're not familiar with who I am. I own this chain," he informed her. The gentleman then proceeded to the manager's office and requested her presence. He had long-standing trust in the manager and was baffled by the treatment his customers were receiving. The manager pledged to prevent any recurrence of such behavior. The owner decisively stated, "It will indeed stop, as I'm terminating the cashier's employment." The cashier pleaded for another chance, promising reform. However, the owner, seasoned in business, knew better than to expect change from those unwilling to adapt. His priority was maintaining a respectful environment for his customers, and he was resolute in upholding this standard across all his stores. Realizing he had neglected to offer an apology to the distressed woman, Mr. Montgomery, the store's owner, rushed to the parking area. He wished he had intervened sooner to prevent the situation from worsening for her. Unfortunately, he was unable to locate her outside, which led him to reproach himself for the missed opportunity to express his regret. With her limited salary, Olivia found it challenging to provide entertainment for her children. However, she made it a point to take her young daughter Mia to the park on her days off, and today was one such day. While Mia played joyfully, Olivia watched from a bench, enjoying the simple pleasure of the moment. Out of the blue, she recognized a familiar face approaching. It was Mr. Montgomery. Surprised and delighted, she greeted him warmly, seeing an opportunity to return the $5 she owed. Mr. Montgomery was genuinely delighted to encounter Olivia. He had longed for an opportunity to sincerely apologize for the regrettable episode at his store. His strolls through the park, a cherished routine and a mild form of exercise on his journey home, had been paused for several months following a family tragedy. Yet today, he felt an inexplicable urge to resume his walk, and, fortunately so. Their fortuitous meeting in the park appeared as if fate had arranged for them to achieve resolution and potentially embark on a new journey together. This meeting, indeed, was the catalyst for a nostalgic voyage that would intertwine their destinies in unexpected ways. "Hi, it's great to see you again. I'm sorry I didn't get your details last time. Everything was so hectic," Olivia said with a hint of regret. Mr. Montgomery, feeling a bit awkward and not sure how to reveal his connection to the store, finally mustered the courage and said, "It's a pleasure to see you too. Actually, I've been hoping to run into you because I need to apologize." "Apologize for what?" Olivia asked, puzzled. "Well, you see, I own that store where the unpleasant incident happened. I should have stepped in before things escalated with the cashier. I deeply regret not doing so sooner. Please accept my apologies," Mr. Montgomery explained, showing genuine remorse. Olivia accepted his sincere apology, saying, "It's all right, you couldn't have known the cashier would behave so poorly." Mr. Montgomery was about to insist on his responsibility in the matter, when Mia's curious voice cut in, "Mum, who is this old man?" "Sweetheart, instead of old man, we say gentleman," Olivia gently corrected Mia, instilling manners in her young daughter. "You know the chocolate you were so happy about? This kind gentleman is the one who paid for it." "Thank you, Mr. Gentleman," Mia chirped in her endearing 3-year-old voice. Mr. Montgomery couldn't help but be charmed by Mia's innocence and responded warmly, "You're most welcome. And may I ask your name, young miss?" "I'm Mia," she answered, and then with the straightforward curiosity of a child, she asked, "What's your name?" "I'm George, delighted to make your acquaintance, Mia," he replied, adopting the gentle tone often used when speaking with children, his words filled with warmth and kindness. "You're a very kind gentleman, George," Mia expressed, her gratitude for the chocolate evident. "Mia, we should address him as Mr. Olivia hesitated, realizing she didn't know George's surname. "Mr. Montgomery, but please call me George," he interjected, charmed by Mia's innocence. George's response was filled with warmth, clearly delighted by her company. "May I call you Grandpa?" Mia suddenly asked George. Without waiting for an answer, she declared, "I'll call you Grandpa," and scampered off to play. As Olivia turned to apologize for her daughter's forwardness, she noticed George discreetly whipping away a tear. At a loss for words, all she managed was, "Is everything all right, Mr. Montgomery?" "Just fine, Mrs." he began. "Please call me Olivia." "It's a pleasure, Olivia. I'm George, and George will do just fine," he reassured her. Olivia, concerned, observed, "George, you seem a bit under the weather. Are you sure you're okay? Should I call for some help?" George quickly assured her, "No, I'm quite all right." "I couldn't help but get emotional when your daughter called me Grandpa," he confessed. "I hope she didn't upset you. Mia is only 3 and doesn't always understand," Olivia said apologetically. George shook his head. "No, not at all. It's just that—" He trailed off, not wanting to burden Olivia with his thoughts. Sensing that George was holding back, Olivia sought to put him at ease. She mentioned that it was her day off, and she had ample time, suggesting she was more than willing to lend an ear. She felt it was the least she could do to express her thanks for his kindness back at the store. "I'll never have the chance to see my own grandchildren," he responded with a heavy heart. "My dear son, Alex, tragically lost his life while on a mission in a conflict zone. For obvious security reasons, I can't disclose the exact location." "Yes, I completely understand," Olivia replied sympathetically. George continued, his voice filled with emotion. "I had dreams of becoming a grandfather, and I cherished every moment with my son. We used to bond over fishing and hunting trips, spending quality time at our day-offs, surrounded by the beauty of nature. What more could one ask for in life?" He paused, gazing up at the drifting clouds. He wiped his face, as if brushing away tears, and continued. "But I never had the chance to meet my grandchildren. My son couldn't grant me that joy. 6 months after Alex's passing, my wife Margaret also passed away. Her heart couldn't bear the grief, and despite the doctor's efforts, she left me alone to face this pain." Olivia tried to console him, saying, "I'm truly sorry to hear that." George managed a weak smile and responded, "Thank you, Olivia. It's a harsh reminder that wealth doesn't shield us from life's pains." He wiped away his tears, trying to conceal his emotions. "You know, you've caught me off guard," Olivia suddenly remarked. Surprised, he inquired, "How so?" "I would never have expected a wealthy man like yourself to easily send his son into a conflict zone to defend his homeland's interests," Olivia explained. George defended his perspective, saying, "I believe it's a duty for every man to be a patriot of his country. Besides, my son made his own choice. I never insisted on it. My wife and I offered him a career within our company, but he declined." Olivia praised Alex, saying, "Your son was incredibly brave and courageous. I'd even say he was responsible and goal-oriented." "He had no equal in those qualities," George nodded in agreement. "Alex always set his goals wisely and never wavered, no matter the obstacles." George couldn't help but notice that his story had brought a touch of sadness to Olivia's eyes, even though she was doing her best to offer him comfort. Feeling a pang of regret for sharing his tale, he quickly apologized. However, Olivia had her own reasons for feeling the way she did. "It's all right," she reassured him, her voice carrying a hint of melancholy. "Your story just stirred up some memories from my own life, and it's left me feeling a little down. It's only been 6 months since I lost my husband, and I'm still trying to adjust to his absence. It's been quite a challenge," she confessed. "I'm truly sorry to hear that," George replied with empathy, genuinely wanting to offer Olivia some comfort. "Thank you, George," Olivia said gratefully, her voice filled with a newfound sense of connection. She had never opened up about her sorrows to anyone before, but as they say, sharing one's sad life experiences can bring a measure of solace. "The most heart-wrenching moment," she continued, "was having to lay an empty casket to rest, filled only with his brand-new clothes." The tale was peculiar indeed, a burial without a body to lay to rest. George, perplexed, inquired, "An empty coffin burial, you say?" Olivia nodded, her voice tinged with sorrow. "Yes, they never found his body." After a brief silence, Olivia shifted the conversation to her family's backstory. Her husband Ethan, a respected builder, began contemplating a career change following the arrival of their youngest daughter. Despite their comfortable financial situation, Ethan aspired for more. He dreamed of a home of their own, spacious enough for playrooms and private spaces for each family member. Motivated by this vision, Ethan sought opportunities elsewhere, despite Olivia's reservations. However, she placed her trust in him, supporting his decision in the hope of a better future for their children. Ethan's journey was marked by optimism, but was met with a tragic end only 2 months later. Initially, his communications were frequent, but gradually they became sporadic, leaving Olivia anxious, not about his loyalty, but for his safety. The news of Ethan's demise came as a shock. He had died in a tragic car accident while making an unscheduled trip back home. With his own car out of commission and unwilling to wait for the company's shuttle, Ethan chose to hitchhike. This decision led to a horrific accident where the trailer he was riding in veered off the road and crashed into a river, instantly claiming the life of the driver. Despite exhaustive searches, Ethan's body was never found, leading to the painful acceptance that the swift currents of the river had claimed him. Faced with this harrowing reality, Olivia, now a widow with 4 children, endured immense grief. Surrounded by sympathetic relatives and friends, she struggled to come to terms with her loss. In Ethan's absence, she conducted a symbolic burial, placing his unused anniversary suit and cherished black leather shoes into the coffin as a final tribute to the elegance he embodied. Months passed, and Olivia gradually adapted to life without Ethan, with her children also coming to accept their father's absence. Sharing this story with George, Olivia's words flowed freely, a release from the burden of her silent sorrow. Wealth did not strip away one's capacity for empathy, a truth George embodied as Olivia's story deeply touched him. So engrossed was he in the vivid imagery her words conjured that he hardly noticed Olivia retrieving a photograph of Ethan from her sweater pocket. "This is my Ethan," she uttered, her voice breaking as she handed over the photo. George held the photograph, studying it intently for a long while, as though searching for a hint of recognition. In the photo, Ethan's smile radiated the kind of joy characteristic of the truly content. It left no room for doubt in George's mind about the genuine happiness that once filled Olivia's husband's life. Surrounded by the joys of family life, a loving spouse, and the warmth of home, Ethan had every reason to exude happiness. The photograph depicted him in full stature, embodying the serenity of a man at peace with his world. After a reflective pause, Mr. Montgomery broke the silence with a heartfelt expression of condolence. "Olivia, hearing your story deeply saddens me. I truly wish circumstances were different for you." "Your compassion is appreciated," Olivia acknowledged with a nod. "They say time is a healer," she mused. "Perhaps, but it doesn't mend all wounds," George responded, his voice tinged with melancholy. "However, I'd be willing to assist in searching for Ethan if you'd like." Olivia, skeptical, remarked, "The search teams came up empty-handed. It seems improbable that you'd find anything they didn't." George, undeterred, suggested, "There's still a chance we might uncover something, perhaps even bring closure by finding him. It's possible someone out there holds a clue." Olivia's eyes softened. "If you could do that, I'd be eternally grateful." Having shared their contact information, George and Olivia said their goodbyes, each stepping into their separate paths. George took a moment to bid farewell to little Mia, her innocent gaze lingering in his mind as he departed. As he walked away, the resolve to assist Olivia grew stronger within him, fueled by the poignant exchange they had shared. With a renewed sense of purpose, George couldn't help but ponder the ways he could make a difference in Olivia's life, determined to lend a helping hand in her hour of need. Embarking on his mission, George knew he required expert assistance, leading him to reach out to an old acquaintance, Lucas Bennett. Lucas, now enjoying retirement, had a storied career as a distinguished detective in the homicide division. George, motivated by the urgency of his promise to Olivia, was keen to consult with Lucas at the earliest opportunity, a stark contrast to his usual procrastination, especially when it came to his own health matters. Within 40 minutes, George found himself at Lucas's residence, his gaze drawn upwards to the illuminated windows on the 3rd floor. The soft glow hinted at the warmth and wisdom that awaited him inside, a stark contrast to the cold uncertainty of the task at hand. As he made his way up, George felt a mix of anticipation and resolve, knowing that the conversation ahead could be the first step toward unraveling the mystery of Ethan's disappearance. In his early days as a detective, Lucas Bennett found himself embroiled in a high-stakes case involving the murder of a young man. George, entangled in a web of suspicion due to the incriminating evidence of blood traces and the victim's fingerprints discovered within his residence, was at the center of the investigation. However, the tide turned when it became evident that George had been skillfully framed. Lucas, with a keen eye for detail and unwavering determination, unearthed the true culprit behind the heinous act, leading to a decisive arrest that not only exonerated George but also highlighted Lucas's exceptional investigative prowess. This notable achievement earned Lucas accolades, a promotion, and set the stage for a distinguished career that culminated in his appointment as the head of the department before his retirement. Years later, upon George's third knock, the door swung open to reveal Lucas Bennett, his face breaking into a wide grin. "George, it feels like an eternity has passed," he exclaimed, enveloping his old friend in a hearty embrace before ushering him inside. Without a moment's delay, Lucas steered George towards the kitchen, insisting on a celebratory toast to their long-standing friendship. George, with a friendly pat on Lucas's back, conceded, "I wouldn't dream of saying no. Our paths have crossed less frequently over the years, what with my immersion in the business world and your relentless dedication to the force." With a rueful smile and a shrug, George added, "Our rare gatherings remind us of the bustling days gone by. It's fortunate we've managed to keep the memory of each other's doorsteps alive." Lucas Bennett, with a knowing nod, quipped, "Indeed, a testament to our still sharp minds." Glasses clinked in affirmation of their enduring camaraderie. As they savored the salad and ham Lucas had thoughtfully prepared, George couldn't help but admire the detective's meticulous living space. Lucas's apartment was a reflection of his disciplined nature, honed over years of investigative work. A place for everything and everything in its place, a trait he maintained even in retirement. Breaking the congenial silence, George leaned back, his appetite sated, and ventured, "Lucas, my visit isn't just a social call." Lucas, ever perceptive, nodded in understanding. "I had a hunch. You've always played your cards close to your chest." He continued, a hint of nostalgia in his tone. "Getting information from you used to be akin to a dental extraction, and after the tragedy with your son, you retreated even further into your shell." George's expression tensed at the mention, the pain of the past evident. "That's a sore subject for me, Lucas," he responded, a mix of sorrow and irritation lacing his words. Lucas immediately softened, his gesture one of regret. "Forgive me. I let the conversation get ahead of me," he offered, hoping to soothe the momentary strain. "So what happened? Tell me." Lucas Bennett tried to change the subject. "I need your help as a detective," George replied. "I know that you've earned more in this field than you ever did in the police." "Oh, so Investigator Lucas Bennett is out of fashion nowadays," joked Lucas Bennett. "Why would you say that? Your skills are always held in high regard, but this time, we need a detective. Believe me, I've come to you with a good offer, one that's hard to refuse. All right, I'm all ears. Lay it out for me, and please include as many details as possible." "Today I met a wonderful woman named Olivia. We got to talking and she told me about her husband's death. He was hitchhiking home when the trailer driver lost control and there was an accident. The truck fell into a river. The truck owner died, but Ethan's body, that's Olivia's husband, was never found." "George, have you found yourself a life partner and want to get rid of a rival?" Lucas Bennett joked again. "I appreciate your humor, but my wife is still in my heart," George replied reproachfully. "Sorry, bad joke, go on." "So she buried an empty coffin with her husband's belongings," continued George. "But I have doubts that he actually died," George expressed. "What makes you say that?" the detective inquired. "If, as you said, the truck fell into the river, it's highly likely that he simply died on impact. The body could have been carried away by the current, and wild animals might have scavenged it." "I thought of that too," George nodded. "But I still ask you to take on this case. What do you say? Can you find him, or at least his body, so Olivia can give her husband a proper burial? Well, I can't guarantee anything, Lucas Bennet shrugged, but I'll try to do everything within my power. Don't hold it against me if there's no positive outcome. Of course I understand, George agreed. It's a troublesome case. The journey will be long, and there's no guarantee we'll find anything. By the way, where did the accident happen? I'll write down all the information I got from Olivia on this piece of paper. Taking a notepad from his inner pocket, George jotted down the scant details he had at the moment. It's not much, but it's something, Lucas Bennet remarked after looking at the notes. In a couple of days I'll be done with a deal with one of my clients, and I'll start working on your case. Just don't drag it out, George, I promised Olivia. Of course, I've never let you down before, the detective replied. Maybe one more drink? I've had enough, my blood pressure is acting up, George declined. Let's save it for when you find this person, then we'll drink heartily. I'll even bring out a 10-year-old cognac. With a solemn promise hanging in the air, they bid each other farewell. George trudged homeward, his thoughts swirling with determination, while Lucas Bennet embarked on a mission of his own, reaching out to his network of informants. For Lucas, aiding his friend was a given. Ever since he had pulled him from the jaws of imprisonment, their bond had solidified into an unbreakable brotherhood. Through thick and thin, they stood by each other, unwavering in their loyalty. As for Olivia, skepticism gnawed at her. Could George truly accomplish what seemed impossible? Time had blurred the lines since the incident, leaving Olivia doubtful. Rescuers had long since given up hope, assuring her that further efforts were futile. The sudden involvement of a supermarket magnate in the search was perplexing, even suspicious. Olivia remained wary, refusing to believe in miracles, especially those that promised to fulfill her deepest desires. In the quiet depths of her heart, Olivia harbored a yearning to reunite with her husband, a longing that flickered even though she had grown accustomed to facing life's trials alone. Oh, how she craved his unwavering strength beside her. Yet she knew the harsh truth. Such dreams were but fleeting illusions. Her husband would never return to her, whole and unchanged. As time wore on, Olivia's hopes dwindled further, her anticipation fading with each passing day. George's updates offered little solace, his assurances on the phone doing little to quell her mounting skepticism. "I'm working on it," he'd say, his words a feeble echo against the backdrop of her doubts, urging her to remain patient. But patience wore thin as the days stretched into weeks, and Olivia found herself sinking deeper into a sea of uncertainty. George's limitations were clear. He lacked access to a nationwide database of deceased individuals. But for Olivia, the ache of longing became unbearable, her heartache driving her to yearn for the impossible, a reversal of time itself. Days turned into weeks, yet George's updates remained scant, leaving Olivia to confront the harsh reality of her yearning. With each passing day, Olivia's patience wore thin until it finally dissolved into resignation. She abandoned the futile waiting game, while Lucas Bennet plunged deeper into his investigative pursuit, pulling strings and rattling cages in his relentless quest for answers. His efforts seemed to defy the passage of time, each lead a flicker of hope in the darkness. In their occasional exchanges, George found solace in Lucas's reassuring updates, trusting implicitly in his friend's detective prowess. Meanwhile, Lucas's relentless pursuit bore fruit, uncovering the elusive link that had eluded them thus far. With a determination akin to a drowning man clinging to a lifeline, Lucas seized upon this breakthrough. Then, on a day like any other, fate intervened. Olivia, enjoying a rare day off with her children, was startled by an unexpected knock at the door. With a mixture of surprise and dread, she opened it, only to find her world upended in an instant. Standing before her, mirroring her disbelief, was her beloved husband, Ethan, returned from the depths of the past. Pale and noticeably gaunt, with a crimson scar marring his forehead, Ethan stood before Olivia, a ghostly echo of the man she once knew. But despite his altered appearance, the sight of him ignited a surge of indescribable joy within her. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she embraced him, her heart overflowing with gratitude and disbelief. The commotion drew the attention of Olivia's children, who rushed to the hallway, their eyes widening in astonishment at the miraculous sight before them. Within moments, the once quiet apartment was alive with the echoes of their shared jubilation, the air vibrating with shouts of joy and exclamations of disbelief. And amidst the chaos stood George, a knowing smile playing on his lips. His presence spoke volumes, a silent acknowledgement of the pivotal role he had played in orchestrating this miraculous reunion. As the pieces of the puzzle fell into place, it became clear that his unwavering determination and tireless efforts had been the linchpin of their salvation. Olivia's earlier doubts about George dissolved in the face of his unwavering commitment, proven by the miraculous return of her husband. As Ethan stepped into the apartment, enveloped by the loving embrace of his children, Olivia found herself overwhelmed with disbelief and overwhelming joy. For an hour, they clung to him, tears mingling with laughter. But it was Olivia who held him the tightest, scarcely daring to believe that he was truly alive and standing before her. In a daze of disbelief, Olivia found herself reaching out to pinch herself twice, half expecting to wake from what seemed like an impossible dream. Yet, Ethan's presence remained steadfast, though his attempts at conversation faltered under the weight of stress and emotion. Sensing the need for clarity amidst the emotional whirlwind, George took charge, breaking the tense silence with a decisive declaration. "I think it's time we shed some light on this situation. Don't you agree, Ethan?" he prompted, his voice carrying authority and resolve. Ethan nodded in agreement, acknowledging the necessity of revealing the truth after so many months of uncertainty. With a deep breath, he began to recount the harrowing events that had led to his disappearance, expressing heartfelt gratitude to those who had played a part in his rescue and the subsequent search efforts. The tale unfolded, revealing the tragic circumstances of his disappearance on that fateful evening as he had set out to reunite with his family. Ethan's urgency that ill-fated evening unwittingly spurred the driver to accelerate, unaware of the impending danger that lay ahead. As they hurtled along the winding road, the truck's momentum betrayed them at a sharp bend, sending it careening off the road's edge and hurtling towards the river below. In the blink of an eye, their world was upended, the crash unfurling with unforgiving swiftness. The impact was merciless. Ethan's head collided with a jagged rock, rendering him unconscious as the river's current swept him away, a helpless pawn in nature's relentless grasp. It was a stroke of fortune that he was discovered by vagrants, eking out a living amidst the wilderness. Initially mistaken for lifeless debris, Ethan's frail form was pulled from the water, revealing faint signs of life. Carried to their humble abode, he drifted in and out of consciousness, trapped in a haze of delirium. Days blurred into weeks as he lingered on the threshold of awareness, his whispered pleas lost in the void of his fractured mind. Yet, amidst the shadows of his subconscious, Ethan found an unexpected lifeline in the form of the compassionate vagrants who tended to him with unwavering dedication. In their care, he found sanctuary, a fleeting reprieve from the chaos that had consumed his existence. It was here, in the depths of wilderness, that Ethan was granted a second chance at life. Ethan's journey seemed woven with strands of fortune, yet his newfound life bore the heavy burden of forgotten memories. As consciousness tiptoed back into his fractured mind, he found himself adrift in a sea of confusion, devoid of any tether to his past. Desperate to unravel the enigma of his existence, Ethan grasped at the fragments of his fractured memory, only to find them slipping through his fingers like grains of sand. In the depths of his despair, Ethan teetered on the precipice of oblivion, contemplating the bitter embrace of death. It was only through the timely intervention of the compassionate vagrants that he was spared from the abyss, their steadfast presence offering a glimmer of hope in his darkest hour. With no name to call his own, they bestowed upon him the moniker of John, a temporary anchor in the tumult of his lost identity. Driven by a primal instinct for survival, John threw himself into the rhythm of their meager existence, casting his lot with his newfound comrades in their daily struggle for sustenance. Yet beneath the veneer of camaraderie, an unyielding yearning tugged at his soul, a longing for a home he could not remember, a past lost to the relentless march of time. Despite his best efforts, the fog of forgetfulness refused to lift, prompting John to seek solace in the arms of authority. But without the anchor of identification, His plea for assistance fell on deaf ears, dismissed as the ramblings of yet another lost soul, adrift in the city's underbelly. Rejected by the very guardians of law and order he had sought out for aid, John found himself adrift once more, teetering on the edge of despair. Yet, in the shadow of his darkest hour, the gentle hands of his companions pulled him back from the brink, reminding him of the fragile thread that bound him to the shack that had become his refuge. And so, with a heavy heart and a weary soul, John chose to remain, finding solace in the fleeting moments of camaraderie, amidst the harsh reality of his forgotten past. Ethan's fortunes took a remarkable turn when unexpected allies emerged, bearing tidings from his forgotten past. As strangers unraveled the threads of his former life, Ethan sat in awe, hanging on to every word as cherished memories danced before his mind's eye. But it was the arrival of a determined detective, Lucas Bennett, that marked the dawn of a new chapter in Ethan's journey. With gentle reassurance, Lucas broached the delicate topic of rehabilitation, outlining the path towards reclaiming the fragments of Ethan's lost identity. Supported by George's unwavering generosity, Ethan embarked on a journey of healing, his footsteps guided by the promise of restoration. Amidst the sterile confines of the clinic, George's presence offered a beacon of hope, a steadfast reminder of the unwavering support that awaited him beyond its walls. As Ethan grappled with the tumult of emotions and the disorienting waves of nausea, George's words of encouragement served as a lifeline, grounding him in the belief that brighter days lay ahead. Through the dedicated efforts of the clinic's skilled practitioners, Ethan navigated the labyrinth of his fractured memories, piecing together the puzzle of his past, one fragment at a time. Tears of joy flowed freely as he rediscovered the bonds of love and family that had once anchored his soul, his heart swelling with gratitude for the second chance that lay before him. Yet amidst the triumph of reunion, a longing for home lingered, a quiet yearning that pulsed beneath the surface of his newfound hope. With each passing day, Ethan's impatience grew, his longing to embrace his loved ones fueling his fervent prayers for swift recovery. And as George stood by his side once more, offering words of solace and understanding, Ethan's gaze lingered on the horizon of possibility, his heart aflame with the fervent desire to return to the warm embrace of family and home. "Just a little longer, hang in there," George assured Ethan with a comforting hand on his shoulder. After what felt like an eternity, Ethan's release finally came. With a heart soaring with gratitude, he practically sprinted out of the medical facility, eager to embrace the world anew. George guided him to his own home first, where Ethan was rejuvenated with a warm shower and fresh clothes. It was imperative he looked presentable for his long-awaited return home. Standing on the threshold of his apartment, Ethan felt a mixture of nervousness and anticipation. As the door swung open, he was enveloped in Olivia's tearful embrace. "I had already buried you," she sobbed, her voice trembling with emotion. "Forgive me, my love, I feel so ashamed." Ethan held her close, his own eyes moist with emotion. "There's no need for forgiveness, my dear. You had no way of knowing," he murmured softly, his voice filled with love and understanding. Turning to George, Ethan expressed his gratitude. "We owe you everything," he said sincerely. George shook his head, a warm smile on his lips. "There's no debt to repay, my friend. It's been an honor to help reunite your family," he replied humbly. Olivia's eyes shone with admiration as she looked at George. "You're truly an angel sent to us," she said earnestly, her voice filled with awe and gratitude. From that moment on, George became more than just a friend. He became their guardian, guiding them with unwavering support and boundless compassion. Determined not to abandon those who had weathered such storms, George extended a helping hand to Ethan, offering him a position as a dispatcher in his company. With this new role, Olivia's husband found solace in the rhythm of everyday life, overseeing the supply of goods to various stores. For Ethan, the job provided not just a livelihood but a sense of belonging, a return to the fabric of normal society. And as he thrived in his new role, George found himself slipping seamlessly into the role of a beloved figure in Olivia's household, his presence a constant source of joy for her children. Among them, it was Ethan and Olivia's youngest daughter, Mia, who held a special affinity for George, always addressing him as Grandpa. Her eyes would light up in his presence as if he were the sun itself, her laughter ringing out like chimes in the wind. His visits became a cherished ritual, woven into the very fabric of their family life, each moment spent together, etched into the tapestry of their memories. It was a newfound joy for George, a balm to the ache left by the loss of his son Alex. Though Mia and her siblings weren't his blood relatives, their presence filled a void he hadn't realized existed, offering a glimpse of the family he thought he'd lost forever. George cherished every moment spent with them, relishing in their laughter and the warmth of their affection. Yet fate's cruel hand intervened one day when George fell ill, his strength faltering under the weight of an unseen adversary. Reluctant to heed the warnings of his deteriorating health, George resisted admission to the clinic until the last possible moment. It was there, in the sterile confines of the medical facility, that reality crashed down upon him. The doctor's grim diagnosis echoed in the recesses of his mind, a haunting reminder of his mortality. Despite his brave front, George couldn't shake the gnawing fear that gripped his heart. With each passing day, Olivia's worry deepened. Her visits to the clinic a testament to her unwavering devotion. And Ethan, ever the stalwart companion, offered words of reassurance, a beacon of hope in the encroaching darkness. But as the days stretched into an agonizing eternity, George's condition continued to deteriorate, his once indomitable spirit faltering beneath the relentless onslaught of illness. And in the face of uncertainty, they clung to the fragile threads of hope, praying for a miracle to light their way through the darkest of nights. After exhaustive procedures, the doctors determined that a blood transfusion was necessary for George's recovery. However, his rare blood type posed a challenge none of his relatives matched. As time slipped away, a glimmer of hope emerged unexpectedly. A donor was found. Astonishingly, the donor was none other than Ethan, whose therapy coincided with George's treatment. The doctor explained that their blood types shared a similar genotype, a revelation that left George incredulous. Despite his skepticism, George consented to the transfusion, though he insisted on a DNA analysis to confirm the unexpected connection. As the samples were sent off for testing, George's condition began to improve, and he wasted no time in sharing the news with Olivia and Ethan. They rushed to the clinic, brimming with relief and joy at George's recovery. "Medicine truly works wonders," George marveled, expressing his gratitude to the doctors. Olivia nodded in agreement, her eyes shimmering with tears of happiness. Turning to Ethan, George's gratitude overflowed. "I owe you my life," he said sincerely. "If it weren't for your selfless act, I might not be here today." Ethan downplayed his role, insisting it was a simple gesture. "But that simple gesture saved my life," George insisted, his gaze unwavering. Yet, he withheld the truth about the DNA test, unwilling to raise false hopes until he had concrete evidence. Thanks to the doctor's dedication, George's health steadily improved. The fatigue and headaches that had plagued him vanished, replaced by a newfound vitality and gratitude for the miracle of life. As the results of the DNA test arrived, George was stunned to discover that Ethan was his son. The revelation seemed inconceivable to him. Alex had always been his sole blood tie, and he had invested his heart and soul in him. To unravel the mystery, George turned to Lucas Bennett once again, tasking him with a thorough investigation. The findings Lucas unearthed were nothing short of shocking. Armed with this newfound knowledge, George wasted no time in making his way to Olivia and Ethan's home, where they awaited him with a hearty meal and eager anticipation. Seated together in the living room, George broached the subject with a gravity that hung heavy in the air. "I have something important to share with you all," he began, his voice tinged with solemnity. Olivia's concern was palpable as she inquired if he had been mistreated during his hospitalization. George reassured her that his health was sound, thanks to the miraculous care he had received. "Now onto a different matter," George continued, his gaze steady. "It appears, Ethan, that you are my son." The words hung in the air, a heavy silence enveloping the room as Ethan struggled to comprehend the revelation. Sweat beaded on his forehead, his face flushing with disbelief. Olivia too was taken aback, her eyes widening in astonishment at the unexpected twist of fate. Ethan's disbelief was palpable as he processed the news, his mind reeling with questions. "How is this possible?" he queried, his voice trembling with emotion. George explained the circumstances, handing Ethan the document containing the test results for him to peruse. As Ethan pored over the evidence, a sense of bewilderment washed over him, mingled with a dawning realization of the truth. "This is unbelievable," Ethan murmured, his voice laced with shock. "I'm sorry for the necessity of the test," George interjected, his tone apologetic yet resolute. "But the evidence couldn't be ignored," Olivia interjected, her confusion evident. "But how could this happen?" she questioned, her brow furrowing in concern. "We will soon find out," George assured her. "I've asked Lucas to gather all the information regarding the birth of my son." As anticipation hung in the air, a knock at the door signaled the arrival of further revelations. It was Lucas Bennett who arrived, greeting everyone with a warm smile before delving into the revelation. As he recounted the events, a somber tale unfolded: the chaos of a fire in the maternity hospital, the confusion amidst the evacuation, and the heartbreaking mistake made by the medical staff. In the aftermath, George's son and another baby were inadvertently switched, their destinies forever altered by a twist of fate. The news hung heavy in the air, sinking in slowly as the gravity of the situation became apparent. "So it turns out I've been raising someone else's child all my life," George's voice echoed with disbelief, his heart heavy with the weight of the revelation. Lucas Bennett nodded solemnly in confirmation, his expression tinged with regret. But Olivia was quick to offer solace, her words a balm to George's wounded soul. "What matters is that you loved him as your own," she said, her voice filled with compassion, "and he loved you in return." George struggled to reconcile this newfound truth, his mind swirling with a maelstrom of emotions. It's just hard to comprehend," he admitted, his voice tinged with uncertainty. Yet Lucas Bennett offered a perspective of hope amidst the turmoil. "You've gained a son, George," he said gently. "And that's something to celebrate." As the realization sank in, George found himself grappling with a mix of emotions, confusion, disbelief, but also a glimmer of newfound joy. I suppose you're right," he murmured, his voice wavering with emotion. With a reassuring nod, Lucas Bennett bid his farewell, leaving the family to grapple with the aftermath of his revelations. Olivia expressed her gratitude, her words laced with sincerity and warmth, while George nodded in silent acknowledgement. Alone with Ethan, George finally found the courage to confront the truth, enveloping him in a fatherly embrace that spoke volumes more than words ever could. And as they stood there, bound by the ties of newfound kinship, George knew that despite the twists and turns of fate, their bond would endure. Tears cascaded down George's weathered cheeks, unbridled and unrestrained. In that poignant moment, he beheld his own flesh and blood standing before him, his heart overflowing with a tumult of emotions. Ethan, too, was moved, his own journey marked by profound revelations and newfound connections. In the wake of such profound revelations, Olivia extended an invitation to celebrate this momentous occasion. The reunion of father and son demanded recognition, a testament to the enduring power of love and kinship. As the evening waned, George found solace in the warmth of family, lingering long into the night, regaling his grandchildren with tales of yore. With the dawn of a new day, George led his loved ones to the tranquil refuge of the countryside, where a sprawling house stood as a sanctuary from the hustle and bustle of city life. Amongst the verdant fields and towering trees, George unveiled a small chapel, a sacred testament to the memory of his beloved wife and son. "This must belong to your son and your wife," Olivia asked gently, her eyes soft with understanding. "Yes, exactly," George affirmed, his voice tinged with reverence. "I built it after Alex's passing, and later added my wife's initials. They rest together in the cemetery, and this chapel is a tribute to our family." Moved by his words, Olivia left him to his quiet contemplation, respecting the solemnity of his communion with the departed. Meanwhile, Ethan approached, a silent reverence enveloping him as he stood by his father's side. In the hallowed silence of the chapel, father and son stood as one, their spirits entwined in a bond that transcended time and space. And as the gentle breeze whispered through the trees, George spoke from the depths of his soul. "I hope I never lose you again," he whispered, his voice raw with emotion. Ethan's response was a vow forged in the crucible of their shared experiences, a pledge to cherish the precious gift of familial love. "It won't happen again, Dad," Ethan affirmed, his embrace a testament to the unbreakable bond between them. In that sacred moment, amidst the hallowed tranquility of the countryside, father and son found solace, their hearts united in a timeless embrace of love and forgiveness. Olivia observed the scene from a distance, her heart swelling with a quiet joy. Fate had not only returned her husband alive, but had also bestowed upon her a father-in-law, weaving together the threads of their lives in ways she could never have imagined. As they reveled in the tranquility of their countryside retreat, George made a pivotal decision to groom Ethan as his business partner. Recognizing the fragility of life, he wasted no time in setting his plans into motion, sending Ethan to accelerated courses in economic literacy. Though initially hesitant, Ethan acquiesced under the gentle prodding of his wife, drawn by the promise of a brighter future. For George, this decision was more than a mere succession plan. It was a legacy in the making, a testament to his unwavering faith in the enduring power of family. "I'm not immortal," George confided one evening, his words weighted with solemnity, "and I need a successor. There's no one else to pass the business on to." "But why dwell on such thoughts? Everything is well," Ethan interjected, his voice tinged with concern. "It may seem so on the surface," George replied, his gaze distant. "But in truth, I've been lingering on the threshold for some time now. Margaret and Alex are waiting for me. I see them in my dreams every night." Determined to honor his father's wishes, Ethan made a solemn promise. "We have a deal, Dad. I'll immerse myself in the intricacies of the business, but you must promise me to cast aside those dark thoughts." At the courses, Ethan embraced his newfound role with fervor, absorbing every ounce of knowledge imparted by the instructors. He diligently took notes, honed his skills, and practiced tirelessly, driven by a singular purpose: to make his father proud and to ensure the continued success of their family legacy. As Ethan braced himself for the challenges ahead, George ensured that his grandchildren were not overlooked. With unwavering devotion, he crafted an environment of warmth and comfort, showering them with love and attention. For George, they were the fulfillment of a long-held desire, a legacy of love and family that he had yearned for. Confiding in Olivia, George revealed that he had always wanted grandchildren, a wish that had eluded him until Ethan's arrival. Now, with 4 grandchildren to dote upon, George relished every moment spent in their company, nurturing their young minds and hearts with care. With a newfound sense of purpose, George orchestrated a move to their countryside retreat, transforming it into a haven for their growing family. It was a gesture of love and legacy, a tangible expression of his belief in the enduring strength of family bonds. As Ethan immersed himself in the intricacies of business, George gracefully relinquished control, entrusting the reins of management to his capable son. It was a passing of the torch, a testament to the faith George placed in the next generation to carry on his legacy with pride and integrity. Under Ethan's leadership, the supermarket chain flourished, ascending to new heights of success and recognition. The family found themselves thrust into the spotlight, their achievements celebrated far and wide. Amidst the whirlwind of change and success, Ethan confided in Olivia, reflecting on the profound consequences of regaining his memory. The journey had been unexpected, transformative, and profoundly impactful, reshaping their lives in ways they could never have imagined. With the business in capable hands, George turned his focus to his greatest joy, his grandchildren. Nestled in the comfort of their countryside retreat, he regaled them with tales of adventure and wisdom, his stories a testament to a life well lived and a love that knew no bounds. And in their grandfather's embrace, the children found solace, laughter, and boundless love, a legacy that would endure for generations to come.
If this story resonated with you, please consider subscribing, hitting the like button, and leaving a comment to show your support. Your engagement helps tremendously and encourages more stories like this one. Thank you for being a part of this journey.